This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show. This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show.
YouTube, what is up? I'm your homeboy Josh, back at you with a look at the Stonehenge RDA from VaperzCloud and KHC. Sent on over free for the purposes of this review by thecloudivapor.com. So come on in here, let's take a look at this thing. Well, YouTube, today we're taking a look at the Stonehenge RDA from VaperzCloud and KHC, who've teamed up to bring you this 30mm monster of an RDA. I mean, this thing is ginormous. It comes in this gray looking box. Kind of wish that there was like some sort of stone sort of design to the gray here. I think that would look kind of cool if you ask me, but it's all right. It's just a little bit drab. But I mean, I guess that's Stonehenge. It's out on, the moor, and it's kind of, it's foggy and drab there too. Is that the idea? I don't know. I just feel like there could be a little bit more to the design of this box. I feel like it undersells it a little bit, honestly. But it's just a box. Anyway, on the side it says VaperzCloud and KHC. You open it up and you've got everything laid out for you in its own little compartment here, which I always like to see. When you pull everything out, you've got your extra chuff cap, you've got your RDA, and you've got your extras. Now in terms of the extras, you do get an extra copper post, you get some extra O-rings, you get an extra blue screwdriver, and you get some spare coils, which with this particular RDA are kind of useless because these coils you would never use on this RDA. It just wouldn't make sense. But we'll come back to that later. Anyway, so the one thing I don't really get here with this RDA are the chuff caps. It comes with one chuff cap seated on the top cap already, and it comes with an extra chuff cap. Now the chuff caps are so similar that it's almost like they just include an extra chuff cap, but it's not. If you look closer, they're just so slightly different. Like there's a 1mm difference in the airflow maybe, or like a 0.5 millimeter difference in the thickness of the Delrin. I just don't get it. Is it supposed to be that I'm getting two of the same chuff caps, or are they just so slightly different that they're so slightly different it doesn't even matter? I don't get the chuff caps. I mean, I feel like if you're going to include an alternate top cap, do something different with the other top cap. Don't include something that's the same, but I mean, they're just too damn similar. They're the same chuff. Why do I have two of these? Is it just so I have an extra? But if it's just so I have an extra, why are they not the same? It doesn't make sense. I just don't get that. But anyway, nitpicky things. Doesn't really matter. Let's take a look at the good stuff. So let's take a look at this deck. This deck is crazy. Am I right? This deck is nuts. It's got a lot going on here. It's weird. And I like it because it's perfectly named. I mean, this thing looks like Stonehenge. I mean, Stonehenge, it's got those, it's got those vertical tablets, and it's got those little tables sitting on top of them, and it's organized in a circle, and I mean, it looks like Stonehenge, man. That's what this thing looks like. So this RDA is just perfectly named, and it's also a little bit overwhelming. I gotta tell you, looking at this thing, when I first got it, I didn't know what to do with it because there's just too many options. I mean, if that's possible, there are too many options here. I mean, look at it. Just look at the thing. It's crazy. You've got this clamping system up at the top, very similar to the 454 big block. How it has that center post and it has the clamping system on the side, and you sort of work the coil in between the clamping system and the single post in the middle. Very similar to that across the top. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 post holes in the center post, which is made of copper, and it's got 3mm post holes in there, 4 of them, and it's made to accommodate up to 20 gauge quad coils, and the terminals in the negative posts are 2.5 millimeters apiece. I mean, my God, there's just a lot that you can do here. I mean, it's set up with quad airflow. The top cap has basically this design of Stonehenge on one side, and the airflow holes on it line up with each of these bottom airflow holes, 4 bottom airflow openings that are going to shoot up underneath the coil. And you can cinch off that barrel against those openings to close off that bottom airflow. And it's actually really nice because with a lot of 30 millimeter RDAs, they can feel like they're a little bit too open, if you ask me. It almost feels like you're breathing through the thing. It's not so with this one. It's that perfect amount of airiness and restriction, and you can make it really airy, you can make it really tight. You can't close off the little tiny holes that are above the bottom airflow, the horizontal airflow, like pinholes here, but I don't mind them so much. They don't add a huge amount of airflow, and I feel like they add quite a bit of flavor because they're going to hit the coil head on, and I actually like them a lot. Anyway, so what are we going to build in this thing, right? Well, I asked that question to myself over and over and over again the first few days I had it. I just kept walking up to the deck, looking at it, walking away, walking up to the deck, looking at it, walking away, and I did this little dance with my RDA for the first few days. I just couldn't decide what I was going to put in this thing, you know? There's just so many options here. Ultimately, what I landed on for this first build was a quad coil build. I decided that I wanted to do vertical coils going down into the well, and doing those I decided to use the regular posts. And I decided to do a sleeper build here, which basically a sleeper build means that it's one strand of wire for both the coils built through the post. So I ran one strand of wire through the post, and I built a coil on either side from there, because I wanted them to be even. You know, sometimes when I'm doing sleeper coil builds, I'll build one coil and then place it into the post and then build the other coil afterwards. But I always felt like I couldn't get them to be uniform that way. I always felt like doing it this way, where I build each coil in a sleeper coil build from the deck, I can work to get it a bit cleaner. And once that coil is built within the deck, I'll position it as a vertical coil and just pull it on through that post hole. Following that, I'll just do the same thing on the other side. Build that coil while within the deck. It's a little bit of a challenge to do this, but in my mind, I felt like sharing that post, even though those post holes are 3 millimeter diameters, I just felt like it would be a bit too crowded if I started trying to shove 4 different leads into there, and it wouldn't come out as clean. So that's ultimately why I decided to do a sleeper coil here. I just felt like it would make the build come out a bit cleaner in the end. So with our 2 vertical coils built, placed in the deck, that's our first layer. And so I'm placing the screws on through the clamps at the top into the post holes enough to secure those leads in place. And once those first pair of screws are placed, I'll go ahead and loosen up the center post so I can fit in another strand of wire for our second sleeper coil. And this one I'll build in much the same way. Starting out, I will center the wire in that positive post, tighten down the screw so it's good and secure, and then I will set about building my first coil. Now it's a little bit tight in here considering the coils that are already in place and considering the clamps that are standing in the way as well. So I make sure I go very, very slowly and make sure that the coil is as tight as it can be as I'm wrapping. Building clean sleeper coils is definitely a bit of a challenge. Building with straight wire that's very malleable, this is 26 gauge wire, and building it on 3 millimeter bits, it can be a little bit of a challenge to keep them clean. With smaller gauge wire, it becomes more difficult to keep those coils tight the wider the internal diameter is. But I'm trying to make sure that, it doesn't ohm out way too low with these quad coils. This deck is made for handling quad coils with 20 gauge wire, but I just don't want it to ohm out too low. What I'm shooting for here is something like about 0.2 something like that. I don't want it to ohm out too low. I don't like my vape that hot, honestly, especially if I'm dealing with quad coils. So that first coil built, I'll just kind of let it dangle there for a few minutes and get started on my second coil. Much the same way, going slow, making sure it's tight and as clean as it can possibly be as I'm wrapping. From there, I'll go ahead and remove one of the screws I've already placed in the clamps, and it will loosen up that one of those vertical coils, but it will make it a little bit easier for me to go ahead and slip these leads on this second sleeper coil on underneath the clamps. And with the horizontal sleeper coils in place, I'll go ahead and anchor down all 4 of the screws around the clamping section to anchor everything down into place once again. Now, I don't want those horizontal coils up top to be too high up. I want them to be a little bit lower because I don't want them coming in contact with the top cap at all. I don't want it to be too hot on the lips, so I will sink them down a little bit, basically just pushing them on in with the screwdriver and rotating them down there a little bit, angling one side, angling the other, pushing them down a little bit lower just so that they're about level with the clamping section. From there, I'll go ahead and clip off all my leads, and once those are out of the way, I'll start shaping these coils. Pulsing really low at first, and just to start shaping them, tweezing them, strumming them, getting them into shape, making sure that they're glowing up nice and even. And ultimately it'll look something like this. 2 vertical coils a little bit lower down into the deck, and 2 horizontal coils overhead around where the clamping section is. Glowing from the inside out, nice and even. And as for wicking, what I did is basically just shoved a bunch of cotton down into those vertical holes. Shove a good amount of cotton down into the vertical coils so that they're touching the floor of the deck. Clip those short around the top of the positive post. And then for the horizontal coils, a good healthy amount of cotton through the horizontal coils. Shove those down until they hit the floor of the deck. Juice it on up. And ready to go. With that, I'll see you guys up topside. We'll vape on it. We'll talk about it. Well, YouTube, that is the Stonehenge RDA. It's a big beast of an Addy is what it is. 30mm Addy for me, that's a first. I've never messed with one before, and I gotta tell you, I actually really like it. I was worried that it was going to be way too airy, basically being just a quad airflow Addy, and not really being able to cut off that side airflow at all, just having to have that wide open. But to tell you the truth, it's really pretty good for airflow. I mean, it's got, probably 3mm by 1mm bottom slots. Maybe that's 4mm by 1mm. I don't know. And it's got like this 1 or 1.5mm side airflow times 4. And that you can't close off, but the bottom one you can close off quite a bit. Now that's wide open. I like it about halfway closed. Yeah, I really like that. Great flavor, a little bit more restrictive, and it's just a great draw. It's a great flavor. For a quad coil, quad airflow Addy, it's pretty awesome, I gotta say. And, I mean, that deck is pretty unique, I gotta say. And you know me, I love the weird ones. This is definitely a weird one. Combining that, you know, clamping structure of the 454 big block with, you know, just ginormous regular post holes. And that clamp section is optional. I like that. I like that it's not always there. It leaves lots of options available. I don't think this is the last time we're going to see this Addy, guys. I think I'm going to mess around with this one quite a bit because I actually really like it. I think the next thing we're going to do is basically just a single coil, an exotic coil probably, all the way around. That's what I think we're going to do next because I really like this thing. It's really cool. Lots of build options, nice big deep juice well, plenty of flavor, and yeah, lots of build options. I really like this thing. It's delicious. That bottom airflow mixed with that side airflow, great flavor. Great flavor with this build. I really like this thing. I kind of wish that I had the option to use my own drip tips. That chuff cap is a little bit ridiculous. A little bit. I honestly don't know why they bothered to include an alternate chuff cap. Because they're pretty much the same size. Pretty much. Like this one's a little bit wider. It's a little bit wider with this other chuff. But not by much. Not by enough that it's going to make a difference. I don't really feel that much of a difference with that. Maybe a little. But, come on. I mean, why include two chuff caps that are practically the same chuff cap? Why not include something that's an adapter? Why not include a smaller chuff cap, you know? That's what I'm saying. But other than that, I really like the thing. And I thought, you know, looking at this deck was weird. I mean, weird even for me. Like, I sat it down and I walked over to it and I looked at it. I shook my head and I walked away, and then I came back to it, looked at it, shook my head, walked away. I didn't know what I was going to put in this thing, man. There's just so many options. There's too many options on this thing, if you ask me, to the point where it's a little overwhelming. You know, I stepped away from it long enough for me to wrap my head around it, and I settled on just a quad build to start out because, you know, quad airflow lends itself to quad coils, and I just thought it was a good place to start. But where to start? Top, you know, use the top section, use the bottom section. I just figured to use both for the first build, you know? Why not? It's great. I'm surprised at how much I like it, to be honest with you. I thought I really wasn't going to like this thing at all, just because it was way too damn big and way too many options for building, and I just thought that I'd be more inhibited than inspired, honestly. But I don't know, the more I play around with it, the more I think about it, the more I like it, the more I want to put more builds in here to see what it can really do. So this is not the last time you're going to see this thing. Only con with it, honestly, so far in the week or two I've been using it, is just a chuff cap. Why does it come with two of the same? That's it. Everything else is great. The airflow is fantastic, especially for a 30mm Addy. Especially for a 30mm Addy. Usually, I mean, I've never bought one, but I've played around with them before, and I've always found them way too airy. Way too airy. But this one's not. This one's really nice. Really cloudy. Great Addy, gotta say. I mean, anything you put this on is going to have a bit of a lip. Pretty much. No, maybe not everything, but most things are going to have a bit of a lip. So you got to get over that. But once you do, it's a lot of fun. Oh, and did I mention? Yeah, the base is serialized, and I've got, take a look, number 1. How cool is that shit? I've never had number 1 of anything. That's pretty badass. Anyway, guys, that's the Stonehenge. Till next time, I'm your homeboy Josh. Vape on, Vapers.